It's episode 41. On the pod with me today is Magician Steven Burchard, an entrepreneur, entertainer, talent scout, virtual events coordinator, and Clubhouse expert. We talk about pivoting your events business to virtual events. We talk about the future of business events. Is it in person, face-to-face, online, or hybrid? We also get to discuss Clubhouse. Is it really worth it? Steven runs a daily Clubhouse 101. Please enjoy the episode and thanks for being a fab listener. Support me by subscribing and telling your friends. Welcome to the Johnny Ross audio experience. I'm Johnny Ross, founder and digital marketing strategist of Fleek Marketing. Each podcast I'll be bringing you an expert to inspire you, to give you some great business growth takeaways, and to get you thinking about marketing and the bigger picture of how businesses can improve, adapt and grow. I look forward to sharing this with you on each podcast, so here we go. Hello and welcome. Hi, I've got Steven Burchard with me today. How are you?
Good. Thank you for having me.
You're over in New York.
I am.
Cool. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for watching. We are live on Facebook. We're live on LinkedIn. We're live on YouTube. This will be turned into a podcast. So if you're listening right now, thank you for joining us. You'll be listening to the podcast version. And today, we're going to be talking about virtual events. We're also going to be talking about Clubhouse. Steven, would you have known a year ago that you'd have been so big on Clubhouse?
A year ago? Definitely not. No. A year ago, I was trying to figure out, where my world was going, let alone what the future of, social media was.
Yeah, absolutely. So just, rewinding, you got into, I think you had a love of magic in 2005. And that's when you first started your first corporation, which is the Magical Memories Entertainment. Mm-hmm. And just tell me. In fact, actually, let's go back to the Burchard bumper sticker business in school. Well, tell me about that.
You're taking it all the way back. So yeah, I mean, when I've always been into marketing and sales. When I was in elementary school, I was taken to like the pool, like when you're, I mean, in the States, I don't know how it is in the UK, but in the States, you get your pool pass, you have like a little town pool you can go to, you pay your fee or whatever. So my mom took me there, we got our picture, getting our pool pass. And all of a sudden I saw a bunch of like, we call it DARE bumpers. The DARE is an organization here in the States where it's like, I forget exactly what it stands for, but it's an organization. They give away free bumper stickers and it's an anti-drug organization. I don't know. I was put it stories. They had a bunch of stickers there. So I grabbed a bunch of them. I took them with me. I was like, kids always grab them. That's what the point of it is. Then all of a sudden I took them to school and I was showing the kids and like, oh, I want one. And I learned, I was like, wait a minute. I never got my parents never gave me money for lunch money. And every other kid got that, they wanted a chocolate milk. They wanted all these other things. So I never got any of that. So what I ended up doing is I was like, yeah, you can have it for $0.25. So I started selling these bumper stickers for $0.25 and I was able to get like chocolate milk. I was able to get all the things that I always wanted because of selling the bumper stickers. And that's how that kind of started.
What was, you said pool. What's pool in the States?
Pool, like a swimming pool.
Oh, swimming pool. I thought you meant swimming pool, but then I thought, no, maybe he doesn't mean swimming pool.
See, it's a language barrier. I apologize.
What's and whilst we're on different languages in New York, etc., what's I'm just curious with COVID right now. What's is mask wearing gone? Is everything back to normal in New York, or how's it feeling in New York?
I'm right outside the city. I'm not in Manhattan. I'm in Westchester County, which is 40 minutes north of the city. And I'd say it's a solid split. You go into a restaurant, half the people are wearing them, half the people aren't. Nobody's asking you to do it. I mean, as of, I think, a couple of days ago, they lifted virtually all restrictions in New York. So we are no longer under government mandate to do anything, really. So okay. That's a change. But but yes, I mean, so in the sense of what I do for a living, events are back 110%. So it's been an interesting rush back to what we are.
So I want to talk about that really events wise, because I'm wanting to get, you're in the events industry, you book entertainers. In fact, you're a talent scout as well. So I'm interested where you find the latest talent to book it. But what I'm wanting to get an idea of is where the future of events are going. And so now that you're saying restrictions have gone, does that mean that everyone's going back to face-to-face online offline events? Just to interrupt you before I let you start, typically the type of events you've done in the past are very much sort of weddings, bar mitzvahs, sweet 16s, the sort of the home industry. Much business events as well, or was it mainly residential?
So prior to the pandemic, it was mostly social events, is what I call it.
Social is the better word.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's mostly
I was trying to find
event.
the right word. So bearing that in mind, and I know that the pandemic will have changed things. What's the lay of the land now in social events? What's the lay of the land now in business events?
I mean, in social events, it's definitely coming back 100%. I mean, it's there are still people that are a little nervous, but generally anybody that's going to have a social event, it's going to be in person. It's not going to be a virtual event. They may have a virtual element for, grandma who's, abroad or, in Florida who doesn't want to travel, anything like that. But I would say 99% of social events that I'm getting right now are coming back to. I was going to say 100%, but it's really, I mean, maybe once in a blue you'll see one that is that's online, but it's mostly in person stuff.
So if we take let's say a wedding or a bar mitzvah, and we're doing you're back to face, do you think that, take the grandma in over the water or whatever else, do you think that it's there to stay, the virtual side, the virtual aspects of perhaps for the ceremony, perhaps for the speeches, perhaps? Do you think that's going to be something that stays?
So it's interesting. You mentioned the corporate and the business element. I think virtual is 100% going to stay for that element. I think you're going to see it in conferences. I think you're going to see it in team building events and even in social events for companies. Because I think during the pandemic, a lot of people moved to different places, and a lot of companies realized that they don't need to necessarily have physical spaces, or they can get really great talent from around the world. I mean, look, you and I right now are a perfect example of this. We never would have connected unless it was for this virtual space. So the idea of having a virtual space to be able to connect talent is huge. And I think that's really where this kind of thing will thrive, is in that. But then you still need the things you had before, where if you had an office and everybody's going to be sitting there around the water cooler, or you're going to have a golf outing or something like that to have everybody kind of build as a team. You still need to have that team building stuff, and you can't do that when everybody's remotely. You can't like fly everybody in for an afternoon happy hour. But what you can do is you can have like a game night. You can have we have an escape room. We have all these different kinds of activities that are going to help people to connect and be able to work together for common goals and be able to build this community through the virtual space. And I think that's where virtual will go and thrive and be consistent forever. And then maybe when weather turns, I mean, it's summertime right now here. So when the weather goes back to being cold and it's snowing and any of those other things, you may see that social aspect of it come back, where people are like, well, I don't want to go and travel. Let's have a game night, and we'll bring somebody in and we'll do like a, whatever for whatever, a couple $100. So I think that may be where social events end, is based on weather.
And just drilling back down to the wedding and bar mitzvah, going to my question, I want you to predict. Do you think that virtual is going to be, more than 50%, let's say, in the future?
In general, or for myself?
In general. Okay. So in general, at a wedding, I'm sort of asking if you had to predict, if you had to put money on it, in 5 years' time, are we going to see 50% of weddings still throwing this ceremony online live?
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I don't think it's
Okay.
going to be. I think in the social sector, you're not going to see it thrive much. I think to some degree you see part of it thrive, but I think there's a cost. I mean, at the end of the day,
Yeah.
that's the biggest element to it is there is a cost, even if it's not a huge cost,
Yeah.
it's still a cost to it. I mean, there are people that forego the videographer because they're like, oh well, it's just that am I going to look at that video? Do I need it? So I mean, those people that are going to forego those pieces already aren't going to invest into a live streaming service. They're going to think, well, I might as well get a videographer. I'll send it to grandma afterwards. She can see the highlights from that video. So that
Yeah.
might be the move versus live streaming it. But I mean, live streaming it adds an element. If you do it right, you could have a back and forth element to it. So it could be nice and fun. But will it end up becoming a big thing? I don't think so, no.
And you know something? I think you've just hit the nail on the head with something around cost, because I think the thing that most people don't realize is that if you want to turn an event into virtual as well, the cost is significant.
Yeah.
Because if you want to do it well, if you want to live stream well, then you need multiple cameras, decent sound, everything has to be coordinated. You may as well be filming it for TV.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden a real life event becomes a lot more expensive to do online.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I can relate to some business events that I've done recently. And, I was just listening to what you were saying and just thinking, and I can totally understand where perhaps there's where corporates have got the money. They can easily turn conferences, for example, into live events at the same time, virtual events. But if you've got a small local event, a business event, where perhaps you're already pushing budget to an extent offline,
Mm-hmm.
the last thing you want to do is invest, and potentially pay, even more than the current cost of it offline to do it online as well. So I think cost is a big factor, and I think I'm really glad you've brought that into the equation, because I think that's a really good point. So, okay, so if we're thinking about business events,
Mm-hmm.
what you're saying, what I'm hearing you saying is the sort of summer started, summer are still there's a huge mix, yeah. There's a huge mix right now in where you are, yeah. Okay, and so one of the things that you've done during lockdowns is you've helped people create far more engaging events.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me a bit more around how you create that engagement online.
So just to touch on the idea, you mentioned I'm going to cycle back just real quick to the business events and how that's kind of progressing, and you touched on this. I think there's not just I think the big thing about business events and how budget is, I think business events actually allow for more people to actually be there. So, that idea is important here too, that it's a business event may invest in doing virtual more because they're going to have the opportunity to make more money on it, as opposed to a social event it's all going out. Any money that you spend is just to please other people. With a business event, it's kind of a two-way transaction. You it buy a ticket, so it can cover the cost of doing something like that. So it opens up the audience more as well, even for a local event, even not necessarily a local event, but like even a small business conference can benefit from that, because now it opens up the opportunities even for more people, from your office. You can sit here and tune into it and, be a part of it, as opposed to how it was, where it's just, okay, I have to go to this conference. I have to go be there, blah, blah, blah. So this actually might be virtual if it's a transactional situation, is a bigger opportunity. And that was just the one thing I wanted to touch on with that.
Well, and you're right, because so basically what you're saying is, so even if there is a cost, it's, it could be an investment, or alternatively,
exactly.
Or alternatively, it could be that you're covering the cost on tickets anyway.
Yeah. And then also that's applicable for, I talk about the not-for-profit sector big. I mean, we started getting into that a lot as well, and offering and helping, because I mean, you mentioned engagement, and then I'll get to that in just a second. But the engagement factor, I drive to nonprofits a lot, because that's a hard thing. Nonprofits immediately pivoted to, I don't know about immediately, but a lot of them pivoted automatically to the virtual space because they needed to keep doing fundraising. They're like, 2020 was all about, hey, we're going to go from in-person to online. That was the move. Like, we had to continue going. Just get it online. I don't care what it looks like. Just do it. So that was 2020. 2021 is kind of transition now to being like, okay, well, we did that last year. It happened. Was it good? Was it bad? It happened. That's the important thing, is it happened. So now we've made it happen. How do we make it like good? How do we build community? How do we build engagement? Because people have seen really bad live streams. They've seen really bad events. Now, how do you make it where it's a good event, or how do you make it where it's a more engaging and more community building experience? Okay, so that's the next step. So now that when we're doing that, I think not-for-profits are really going to see that grow, because nonprofits are going to be like, okay, we're doing domestic violence. I don't know, I'm just throwing something out there, not to be whatever, but like let's say whatever the topic is, we're going to do, making more, dogs happy, whatever, you know what I mean? Whatever the topic is, that they're not just the people in your area that like that. There are people globally that will support that. So people, maybe somebody in Singapore wants to be a part of a New York organization that's going to be doing this. They believe in that cause. They're going to donate, but they're not going to go from Singapore to New York to attend this small event. Well, you do it virtually. That person can attend virtually and they can donate virtually. People from around the world can donate. So the opportunity is huge for that organization. And now that's where I think besides business, that's where I think people can thrive. But it's another monetary transaction. They're going to increase donations, so that's a good reason to do it. So I think the ones where virtual really grow is anywhere you can increase, your reach, your that kind of aspect of it.
Yeah, it makes sense. Have you supplied much talent or a magic axe to making dogs happier events?
No, I have not yet. Although it's funny. Now I know we're going to get into this in a bit, but it's funny. I help out doing an onboarding room for the largest dog lovers group on Clubhouse. So it's funny that you mentioned that. So kind of.
We've got Simon Marcus watching. I must say, when you talked about phenomenal events and sort of going from 2020 to 2021, how there's a big jump. I agree. Me and Simon worked on a joint project, and we took that event to the next level in terms of the quality of output for live and the quality of output for video capture afterwards. But you're right, it was nothing like what we'd have done in 2020. In 2020, it would have just been, let's just do it on an iPhone.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Let's just make it happen and nothing else. But I think you've got to have the quality. You've got to. People are past that, and there has to be the quality there. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I wouldn't mind just going into a few tips on the virtual events. If you were running a virtual event, maybe a hybrid event, trying to get engagement. And here we're talking about business events, so maybe to drive revenue, to drive transactions. What are some of the key things to create that engagement?
Well, I think that's funny is I think engagement is the key thing. I think that's the biggest problem that people face, is that they're so focused on the content that they're not focused on getting people to invest in what they're doing. And I think that's the most challenging piece of it. And it really is challenging because, a lot of companies, a lot of people that are doing the actual production are like, oh, just pre-record it. We'll put it up there. It's better quality. It's guaranteed, blah, blah, blah. And my belief is, no, I'd rather risk the live so that way you can build more engagement. Because we could sit here and be like, Simon, thank you so much for joining us. Drop a hi in the chat if you guys are watching us. Thank you so much for coming here. Make sure you're showing. And then, all of a sudden you're going to ask a question. Be like, okay, now what would you prefer right now? Do you want to talk about virtual events, Clubhouse, or do we want to talk about hybrid events? Do me a favor, drop in the comments right now which one you would prefer to talk about, and we can continue that conversation. And now you're really pulling people in. Somebody will drop in the chat, oh, we want to talk about Clubhouse. Great. We can divert that conversation and actually have a live conversation about what people are invested in, versus we're just going to tell you what we want to tell you and screw you if you don't like it, kind of thing. And that's not good. I mean, that's why would say, and somebody, I forgot where I saw it, but early on, somebody said, what's the difference between a pre-recorded conference and a YouTube video? Nothing. Why would somebody pay and sit for a pre-recorded 8-hour conference when they could watch it on YouTube later, or watch YouTube videos about it later? What's the point? They're not going to pay for it. There's no there's no value you're delivering with that. The reason why, and I'm also a believer that if you're going to do a conference, don't offer the recorded aspect of it, because if you offer the recorded aspect, they're not going to attend the live one. They're not as likely to attend the live one. It's if you put it as live only, you charge for it, put it as live only, and deliver live people doing the conference, you're going to now have an actual event versus just a video playing. So
well, I mean, okay. So firstly, I was one of those people that didn't attend because I knew it was going to be recorded on YouTube.
There you go. That's perfect example.
That's a great example. The second thing that you mentioned was around, so for example, this right now. Okay, so we're doing this live. Okay, so I have debates with a few people around this, and I think that I'm starting to feel there's sort of a 50-50 camp here. So there's people that prefer it live. I prefer it live. I think it's a bit more real. I think you haven't got a choice. You've got to be good. You've got to give it your all. There's no, can we just take that bit out?
Yeah, exactly.
Can we just press pause and just have a break for a moment? And it's all right. You can rewind over that, can't you? And I think actually, if anything, that gives you a comfort blanket, and it gives you, it allows you to make mistakes. It allows you to not be quite as in the moment, and so. But I think there's about 50% of people that have a very good argument for recording it, because they will say, well, we'll get rid of all the errors, we'll get rid of all the gaps, the pauses, it'll be really polished, very high quality, and they sort of have quite a good argument, but I think your argument wins.
I will say this. I was gonna say I think it depends on the content, and I say this almost about everything that I talk about when it talks about strategy wise. It's actually I'm gonna go back. It's interesting. So my background, I went to school for marketing and psychology. So like I never, and I use that for my business, but now I've kind of taken that into like what I actually do for clients, because like prior to the pandemic, I was doing events. We were providing talent. That's all we did, is provide talent. Now we've kind of pivoted to actually helping people design their strategy. I mean, between virtual events and Clubhouse. Now talking about this, and that was my point, is that it depends on your intent. What's your intent? What's your end goal with the content? If your end goal is to deliver a TV studio quality product, then yeah, maybe pre-record is the way to go, because and then you can say, I don't really care. I'm going to have it pre-recorded and post it up afterwards, and I want it to be as best as it possibly can be. Then if that's the goal, then you don't care about the engagement factor, then yeah, go for the pre-recorded. That's the way to do it. But if you want them to be attending an event, if you want them to be invested in the event, then yeah, then do it live, and then do it even if there are errors, even if somebody glitches out, even if their microphone stops working. People understand, especially at this point. People understand. They might not like it, but people understand. People understand that things happen. Everybody's been on a Zoom call where all of a sudden their internet cuts out. Everybody's been a part of something that's happened. So it happens, and people understand that. So I think, and I think people always understand that as well. As something I've realized is, clients might not like it as much. We want us to have backups. Make sure you do your speed test, all those things. But if it happens, and people understand that. So I think that's the key with that. And I think. And I think also, one, the intent, but also like what you're doing. Like if it's a performance, so like let's say somebody's doing, a musical performance, you could pre-record that, because guess what? The engagement factor isn't really going to be there anyway. If somebody's just playing a song, then what does it matter if it's pre-recorded, if it's live? The live factor is nice because you can still call people out. And I think talking about the engagement factor, there are some key simple things people can do. And I mentioned one earlier where I'm telling somebody, drop this in the chat, that, so you're engaging with people. And then afterwards, if someone dropped in the chat this certain thing, you can then say, hey, I saw that you said this, or hey, I saw you said that. So then calling people out by name. Those are just two simple things that people can do today. If they go to a Zoom call and they start engaging people that are in the chat, or that they see on the screen, like, oh, John, I didn't realize you had that blue shirt. That's a really nice one, that kind of thing. So I think that is really a key thing. If you could turn around and have that in there, that would be a good way to allow for people to really engage. So that, and even with the musical performance, somebody can do that in the musical performance and still have that engagement.
Yeah. Yeah. And as Stephen says, if you are watching right now and you've got questions, please do drop something in the chat. I would normally say that anyway. So I wanted to, where I'm curious, totally off tangent, but it's more in your world. You're a talent scout. How do you find the best talent? Where do you spot the new rising talent?
So interestingly enough, I perform a lot. I'm still an entertainer. You mentioned magic earlier. I'm a magician. I now do games and team building exercises and things like that. So like I'm still out there and still executing, and I'm still involved in different events. And this is how I've always been. I've always had my eyes open to new people and people that I've seen. I mean, I was at an in-person event this past weekend, and I picked up 2 people to work with in the future as opportunities to say, okay, if clients need this service, I'm kind of I'm more of I call it a talent scout just because I think people understand what that is better. I'm more of an entertainment broker. Somebody comes to me and says, hey, Steve, I want this. I want, a DJ who can do backflips while, whatever, that could be. So like, I need this. And especially, I mean, as a marketer, experiential marketers is really like the place that sees this the most. Because I was talking to one, they're like, I need, ballerinas underwater. It's these like crazy things that clients have these ideas and they want to execute these ideas. So like, how do you do that? You come to somebody like myself who's seen a lot, knows a lot of people, knows a lot in this world, and I can find people what they're looking for. I mean, I talk about a couple of key ones that I've done. I helped a client find an elephant for their wedding. I helped a client get mermaids for their pool party.
Real mermaids?
Yeah, of course.
Wow, you're good. You're good.
Las Vegas showgirls for a 50th birthday party, like all these different crazy things. So it's like allowing people to get what they want, and that's kind of where it is. It's just having. So whenever I'm at an event, whenever anywhere that I see somebody that's good, I'm like, give me your information, and I just store them. I mean, I might not talk to somebody for years, and then I'm like, hey, are you still doing this? That,
You still doing backflips whilst DJing?
Yeah, exactly. Or honestly, it's like, and I'm really good at connecting things together. So like, I might know this guy can do these backflips. So like, hey, you can still do those backflips. Let me teach you how to DJ, so that way you can now execute this job. And that's what that's the things I do. It's just like connecting the right people to the right jobs and putting them fitting the puzzle pieces together, and then maybe trimming them so they fit better. That kind of thing.
I love it. I love it. We've got someone on Facebook saying, I agree. I attended a Tony Robbins virtual live event, which was amazing. So, yep, there we go. So I want to talk about Clubhouse. Now, okay. I was an early adopter like yourself. Mm-hmm. I spent a bit of time on Clubhouse. I since turned around and said, Clubhouse is for people that have nothing better to do with their time. And lo and behold, Stephen, you've been on Clubhouse for many hours a day for a few months, but tell me more. And you've been, in one of the worst hit industries. Mm-hmm. So I imagine you have had a bit more time to play with, which is only, which is fair enough. But actually, you've really seen some huge opportunities in Clubhouse, and you're still using it right now. I understand the platform. I get it. Tell me more. Convert me. Tell me more about what's been happening, how you've used it, and what's happening right now on Clubhouse. And I think you were saying to me in the green room that you actually get more money out of Clubhouse for revenue-wise than you did in LinkedIn.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually,
wow.
100%. That one without a doubt is if I'm comparing the connections and the money and the value I've gotten out of Clubhouse versus LinkedIn, Clubhouse wins without a doubt. And it's funny, is I've invested a lot of time into LinkedIn as well. But anyway, the point is that I think Clubhouse, the way to approach it's based on the way you approach it. So if you understand what your intention is with Clubhouse, and you really create a plan for what do you want out of it, and you come in there with that intent and start to execute that intent from day 1 or day 10 or whatever. Once you start doing that, you'll start to see where the value comes. And I think a lot of people, and I mentioned this in the green room as well, I think a lot of people, when they look at when they approach Clubhouse, they kind of just go in there and just kind of see like, what's going on here, like, well, this is a lot of stuff. There's cryptocurrency over here. There's, digital marketing over here. There's somebody talking about, shoot your shot rooms, which is like dating rooms over there. It's like, wait a minute, this is not what I'm into. This is way too much stuff. But that's like, and I mentioned this analogy to you. It's like going to YouTube and just saying, hey, I want to learn something. Tell me what to learn. And it's like, if you're brand new to YouTube and you just jump on the front page of YouTube, it's not going to deliver you what you want to see. It's going to deliver you generic content. Same thing with a Clubhouse. You go there, you don't follow the right people, you don't follow the right clubs, you don't join the right conversations or conversations that you're interested in or that are going to deliver value to your intention. Then yeah, it's a waste of time. Then yeah, it's gonna be a time suck. It's gonna, whatever. It might just be you sitting there but it might, sitting there, taking in information. But then if you, at the same breath, if you go in there and say, okay, I am here for, like, personally, when I first joined, I was like, I'm here for virtual events. I mean, I even got the handle virtual events. That's my handle on Clubhouse.
That's cool. I've seen that. Yeah.
So, but that's the point. It's like, I made a decision day, like 5 on the app. I was like, you know what? I'm going to be here for virtual events. That's my intention. Even though you mentioned it, we did in-person events, we do brokerage of entertainment, we do all of that, and that was really my world prior to the pandemic. Is for 12 to for whatever it is, 14 years, 12 years, whatever the hell the numbers are. Prior to the pandemic, I was doing in-person social events. Big pivot, pandemic. Now I'm in Clubhouse. Well, do I go back? Do I focus on the thing I did prior to the pandemic, or do I focus on my future of what I had decided on? So I decided I'm going to do virtual events because it allows me the most global reach. And that's the reason I did it, is because now I can reach people in Singapore. I can reach people in, the UK. I can reach people all over. And I did. And doing that allowed me to kind of expand. And that now I always say Clubhouse is like, Clubhouse is a living podcast, one. So people can come up on stage, they can ask questions, they can be a part of the conversation. But more so, at least for what I used, my intention was, it's like networking on lightning speed. You are able to connect with people, talk to people, and have real connections with key people more than anywhere else in the world. And if you are like, hey, I want to connect with this person, you have the opportunity to literally be with that person on a stage, not in front of them like visually, but speaking to that person. That's a key influencer, a key person that you want that information to be able to connect with. Now that's whether it's your client, your customer, your whatever, you have this opportunity, or, a mentor that you've always wanted to connect with. You have an opportunity to really connect with this person. So being a part of those conversations, and then, but then it's like anything else. If you don't take that information and you don't take that opportunity and bring it offline, you don't take that opportunity and capitalize on it, it will only just be that moment. You can follow that person, you can do whatever, but if you don't send them a message, say, hey, it was great chatting with you, thank you so much, let's set up a Zoom call so we can further this conversation. Let's set up a phone call, let's set up let me send you something, let me send you whatever. I want to perpetuate this. If you don't do that, if you don't take that step, it's like anything in business. It won't work out. It'll be a dead lead. It'll just never work. So I'm gonna come back to this. Clubhouse is an opportunity, but you need to capitalize on the opportunity. If you don't, it's going to be a time suck. It's going to be a waste of time. It's not going to work. But if you go in there and say, I have a narrow focus, I am going to spend my time, I'm going to spend, an hour a day, 2 hours a day, 5 hours a day, whatever the time frame is. Obviously, the more time you do spend on there, the more opportunities come to play. But if you take it and you say, I'm going to be in just these rooms, I'm going to just join these conversations, I'm going to just be a part of that, then you're going to get the most value out of it. But, just like YouTube, there's, if you go on YouTube, you say the same things, you'll get a lot of value. But there are some people that'll go onto YouTube and watch cat videos and then watch, people falling off trees, they'll watch all that. You have that on Clubhouse too. It's social network. It's a social, not networking, but social media, whatever you call it, social app. So like the end of the day, even it's audio, they still have the distracting content. They still have, the comedians, the musicians, the this, the that. So you can get pulled into a rabbit hole and be like, oh, I'm just here to kind of absorb. But if that's your intention, that's totally fine. This is my distraction. This is my radio. This is my whatever. So I think you just need to approach it and say, I have this intention. I have this plan. I have this goal. And how am I going to achieve that goal?
You have a daily Clubhouse. Is that right?
I do Clubhouse 101, which is tips and tricks on how to best use Clubhouse.
And what time is that?
It's 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So as soon as we're done with this, I'm actually going to wrap up and get ready to go for that.
And that's Monday to Friday, is it?
Monday through Saturday.
Monday, Saturday. See, that's the other thing with Clubhouse that I've noticed is that it's very much more a weekend app as well.
It's different. Yeah, there's definitely different people on the weekend. During the week, I feel like it's much more business oriented, much more, you'll see marketing, you'll see, any kind of business related rooms, because a lot of these entrepreneurs, a lot of these small business owners are either on the app or are on the app in general, but I mean, either presenting or absorbing while they're at work, while they're doing this. And then the weekend, you tend to see more social, for sure. But you also see a lot of the weekend warriors, the people that are like working during the week that are on the app that are kind of not as focused on the heavy business stuff.
Yeah. Well, and so what are the topics that you cover in Clubhouse 101? That's how to use Clubhouse, is it?
Yeah. So we do. It's kind of it's an onboarding room. It's also like a Q&A style room where people can come up on stage. I actually started this with a co-founder of that with me, and actually we kind of pivoted. Well, we started with that. So day like 3 on being on the app, I started doing this. So I think it was day 2 or day 3. I went on the app day 1, had a great onboarding from a bunch of people that were already on Clubhouse. And then I realized, kind of petering on the app, people had no idea how to use this thing. They're like, I don't know what buttons are, what is, and I had the great experience being brought onto it. So I hosted a room saying, hey, if you don't know how to use it, here's how you use it. And that's just perpetuated for 4 months straight. So it's
amazing.
It's been insane. It's so funny. So we learn, and every day I learn more about it. I kind of like, other people come up on stage and like, oh, did you ever think about doing this or anything of this? So it's like allowed me to really learn how to like use the nuances and like, whatever the certain small things about it. I mean, perfect example is when I mentioned the handle piece of it and like the name where I have virtual events. I mean, the most, if you want to be searched on Clubhouse, the first thing that gets searched is your handle. So your bio is searchable, but the handle's the most searchable. So you can actually change your handle that allow you to be pushed up in the rankings for key terms. So if you wanted to, let's say you wanted to be, you wanted to be found for digital marketing, you could be like Digital Johnny. And then, that'll bring you up. As soon as somebody types in digital, you'll be high up in the rankings because of that. So that allow you to get more people to see you and connect with you based on that information.
So I went so wrong by going for @Johnny Ross then.
Well, it's interesting. So one of the co-hosts of our room actually says that. He's like, well, if you because you're now doubling your information. And if you think about or Instagram, this is a similar situation. Instagram pros always tell you use your name field as an opportunity to be found higher in searches. Don't use it as your name because you're now doubling your name. You have your name in your handle. You're also going to put your name in the name field. You're now doubling the information. Same exact situation when it comes to Clubhouse. If you take it, people will search your name. They're going to find it based on your name, but then they'll find it also based on your handle. So you can change your handle.
Very, very, very interesting point. I like it. So you're doing daily Clubhouses. How long are you spending on the app each day at the moment?
At the moment, not as much as I had been. We have a couple.
How long, or should I say, sorry to how long would a Clubhouse 101 typically be? Let's put it that way.
Oh, it's an hour. It's an hour a day.
Okay.
So right. we do that particular room an hour a day. I have this past week I haven't been doing, or the past 2 weeks I haven't been doing my other rooms. I also do like a Clubhouse 201, and I don't know if you understand this, but in the States we have, like, when you go to university, you have different levels. So you go like 101 is basic, 201 is the second level, 301 would be the level above that. And I know it's very United States kind of like mentality. So anybody that's watching from around the world, that's kind of where this came from. And it's actually funny is that I never knew that until somebody joined my room. And they're like, what is with the 101, 201, 3? Like, I don't get it. And I'm like, oh, it's a US thing. In our universities, you go levels based on numbers. Anyway, so we do a 101, a 201, which is about like moderating rooms, and a 301, which is about creating clubs and how to be successful with those. And we do those throughout the week. So when I was at my prime, I should say, for lack of better terms, I was hosting probably almost 2 rooms a day for an hour each. So it's about 2 hours dedicated to doing it. And then I would join other people's rooms and just be a part of conversations. And the biggest thing is it comes down to multitasking. Like, I'd have Clubhouse going on next to me over here, and I'd be sitting on my computer. I'd be doing whatever I'm doing. And, someone has a question like, hey, Steve, how do you press that button? I'm like, oh, okay, and I answer and I continue what I'm doing. But if you think about it this way, I people are like, I can't do that. How are you going to be well, how many people will listen to podcasts while they're working? How many people listen to the radio while they're working? Same idea.
Yeah, I sort of experimented with that when I was first playing with the app, and I do agree you can multitask. But then at the same time, going back to the word engagement, if you want to be seen in that room, or if you want to be heard in that room, you've got to be like properly deeply listening as well. So it is difficult. So I'm just wondering on your take. You're a big Clubhouse fan, so I don't know if this might manipulate your thoughts, but I'm wondering what you think to things like Twitter Spaces, and I'm trying to grab the names of any of the others any of the other social platforms that are going to be bringing out audio as well. I think LinkedIn is. I think.
Spotify is, or did, I should say. They just launched it a couple days ago.
You tell me more, Stephen. So which networks have got audio, and can you see any of them taking off?
Twitter Spaces I've heard about. I've never been on it. I know LinkedIn has said they're going to come out with it. Twitch has come out with one. And then Spotify they acquired something called Locker Room, and then they converted it to their own. So they have their own space as well. And then Facebook is going to come out with one as well. So those are the ones off the top of my head I know about. And I know there's another one I forgot off the top of my head. But anyway, there's
Instagram.
I don't know if Instagram is doing their own.
No. Okay.
But I don't know what.
So your thoughts? Are they gonna have any impact?
So Twitter Spaces has been around for a while now and hasn't really affected Clubhouse, if you think about it. So I mean, Twitter Spaces has been around long enough where if it was going to affect it in any major way, it would have. I think in general, each of these social networking apps have their audiences already. So an Instagram person isn't going to become a Twitter person. A Facebook person isn't going to become, a LinkedIn person necessarily. I think you're going to have each of these people that live in these ecosystems already are going to maintain those ecosystems. So if they're in there and they're big and that's their world and that's where they operate, then they'll appreciate having this feature.
Yeah.
I think Clubhouse is what it is. It's like saying, I'm going to go to LinkedIn to try to search for a how-to video on how to fix my, whatever. No, you're going to go to YouTube for that. Like if you want to find that how-to video, you're not going to go to LinkedIn and try to find that video. The user experience is not going to be what you want. Now, I think when people think audio app or audio, networking communication, they're going to think Clubhouse. That's what the first thought is, because that's what they are, all they are, only thing they are. Other people will just be copycats. Other people will just be adding on to it. Other people will just be trying to infuse that into what they do. Will it work? Maybe. Will it be better? Maybe. But the question is, can Clubhouse? I think right now, Clubhouse is in a situation where they have the opportunity to lose, not that somebody will overtake them. I think if Clubhouse can maintains and doing it right, Clubhouse it has such a leadway to it, and they've already gained such a large user base and a fan base, for lack of a better, just for what it is. It's not just user base, for fan base. So like people really are believers in Clubhouse, that they'll be able to have that core maintain it, because there's so much great information. At the end of the day, if you're a new user and you're like, hey, I'm going to start my small business, honestly, you could go to Clubhouse and learn half the things you need to know. I learned a crap ton about virtual events, and I'm like, that's what I do. I have picked up so much from that just by helping host rooms and things. I'm like, Jesus, like it's just my knowledge base. Like I talk to clients now, and I'm like, where did I learned it from Clubhouse? I truly did. So now, taking that information and being able to bring it. So, even if you're a new user and you've never been on there and you just want to sit there and listen to it, you can gain so much knowledge by being on there, even now.
Yeah. And I think like you just insinuated, when Twitter first came out, we were amazed how we could reach CEOs or celebrities or whatever else. I think that's the same with Clubhouse, that you'll be amazed at some of the people that you can reach on there. I can see Spotify maybe doing well, because I think music was a big part, was a big part of Clubhouse. I could perhaps see that moving to Spotify. It makes sense. But I don't think any of the, I agree with you. I'm not sure, Twitter Spaces. I've not seen anything really. I tried it. I don't think we got a single listener. It was and that was me and another big account actually. Anyway, so there we go. Stephen, maybe there's an amazing magician watching right now. Maybe they want to be increase their bookings. What's the best way to get hold of you, Stephen, if you're talent and you're wanting to be signed up?
Well, you can definitely reach out to me through LinkedIn. It's Steven Burchard. I mean, I'm the Steven Burchard. But then you can also contact my company. It's Magical Memories Entertainment, and that's www.mme123.com.
mme123.com. And so maybe you're wanting a DJ that can do backflips, maybe you're wanting mermaids for a pool party, you need to head over to mme123.com, and you're at virtual events on Clubhouse as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
so
me.
You run at 10 a.m. Eastern time. I think that's 3 p.m. in the UK right now, so it's in an hour's time. Is that right?
Yes, an hour from now.
Okay, so for UK listeners or watchers, it's 3 p.m. in the UK, 10 a.m. Eastern time, and that's Clubhouse 101. So perhaps you'll see me there. In an hour's time, I'll be on another call, but you never know. If I'm going to go on Clubhouse, Stephen, I will absolutely come to your room.
Fantastic, I appreciate it.
That's fair to say, isn't it? So if I come back on Clubhouse, I'll be there. Stephen, this has been delightful and really informative, and I've really enjoyed our conversation. I can't believe how quickly it's gone. So thank you so much for your time. You've said LinkedIn or Clubhouse or the website, so we've got where you are. Stephen, thank you again, and enjoy your day. And if you've been watching, if you've been listening, and this has been helpful, please do like, share, comment, tell your friends, etc., etc. But that's bye from me and from Stephen. See you soon. Take care. Bye-bye. You've been listening to the Johnny Ross audio experience. Thanks so much for joining me. If you want to continue the conversation, head over to my website, fleek.marketing, or find me on LinkedIn. That's all for today. Please subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts, tag me in your social media posts, and please leave me a review on iTunes. It will make a huge difference for me. I will see you soon.